Please, can you be brave for me? 7 words, whispered into freezing Detroit wind by a young man who weighed 127 pounds and should have weighed 170. 7 words spoken to a stranger who looked like every warning Ethan Cole Brennan had ever been taught to heed. 6 feet 4 inches, covered in scars and tattoos, missing 2 fingers from his left hand, wearing a Hells Angels patch that read, Sergeant at Arms. For 19 months, Ethan had endured systematic neglect and cruelty in a basement while his stepfather waited for his body to simply give out. 4 people had turned him away that night before he found the courage to approach the bikers. And what happened in the next 18 minutes would mobilize 217 Hells Angels across 3 Michigan chapters and expose a pattern that had already taken 1 life. This is Ethan and Reaper's story. And the ending will prove that sometimes the most intimidating-looking person in a parking lot is exactly who you need. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Enjoy the story. Please, can you be brave for me? Thursday night, December 21st, 9:43 p.m. The words came out broken, hoarse, like Ethan's vocal cords had forgotten how to shape sound, because calling for help in that basement had never brought rescue. So why waste the energy? Marcus Reaper Colton froze mid-sentence. He'd been laughing with his brothers. Tank, Chains, Prophet, 3 men who'd known him for a decade, outside Rusty's Roadhouse Bar and Grill. Smoking a cigarette, he was trying to quit. Discussing the club's Christmas toy drive. Normal Thursday night. Just brotherhood and cold air and the rumble of Harley engines idling in the parking lot. Then this young man appeared. 17 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill making it feel like 3. Blizzard warning issued for overnight. Temperatures dropping to -8. Life-threatening cold. Frostbite in minutes. And this person, no, this shadow of a person, stood there in a Wayne State hoodie 3 sizes too large, jeans held up with frayed rope, 1 Nike sneaker and 1 different brand boot, both with holes exposing socks. Reaper's steel-gray eyes locked onto Ethan's face. Really saw him. The fading bruise on his left cheekbone, yellowish-green, about 8 days old. The marks around his throat, darker bruising partially hidden by the hoodie collar. The way Ethan's right arm cradled his left wrist protectively against his stomach, some kind of old injury affecting how he held himself. Reaper had seen wounded people before. Fallujah. Ramadi. Field hospitals in Iraq, where he'd worked as a combat engineer after losing his fingers to an IED blast. He knew what survival looked like. This young man had survived something. Multiple things. Was still surviving it right now. Reaper's cigarette fell from his hand. Ember dying on wet pavement. He didn't notice. He took 2 steps forward. Slow. Deliberate. The way you approach something wounded that might flee. His massive frame, 6'4", 240 pounds, broad-shouldered from years of construction work and motorcycle maintenance, bent slightly, making himself less imposing. His scarred face softened in the flickering neon light of the bar's Budweiser sign. "You got me, kid." Reaper's voice was gravel and iron, but gentle. "I'm here. You're safe." Now you might be thinking a Hells Angel finds someone in distress in a parking lot, and his first move is to crouch down and offer protection. That's not the story you expected, is it? Maybe you were imagining something violent, something aggressive. But Reaper hadn't built 7 years of sobriety, and 4 years since his daughter's murder, by being the man rage wanted him to be. He'd built it by being the man his daughter would have wanted him to become. His right hand, intact one, all 5 fingers scarred but functional, reached out slowly. Palm up. Non-threatening. Offering. Behind him, Tank, Chains, and Prophet stopped talking. Tense. Alert. They formed a wider circle without being asked. Protection formation. Automatic. Reaper's left hand, prosthetic fingers visible in the cold, mechanical but functional, moved to Ethan's shoulder. Gentle despite its artificial nature. Solid contact. Grounding. Real. He shifted his body 45 degrees. Placed himself fully between Ethan and the open parking lot. Physical barrier. Shield. I got you now, Reaper said quietly. Whatever it is, we got you. He didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanation, didn't say what's wrong or what happened, just stated fact. You're safe. Present tense, already done. Not a promise for later, a reality now. Ethan's knees buckled. Reaper caught him before he hit pavement. The young man weighed almost nothing, felt like holding something fragile that might break. And that's when Ethan's voice cracked completely. I haven't eaten in 4 days. The confession spilled out between labored breaths. Respiratory issues. Lungs struggling. My stepfather locks the food. Locks everything. I needed someone to believe me. Everyone keeps walking away. Ethan's hand trembled as he pulled out a worn leather wallet. Showed Reaper the contents like evidence in a trial he'd already lost 4 times that night. $23.47. One $20 bill. 3 ones. Handful of coins. An expired Wayne State student ID. Photo from 2 years ago. Ethan at a healthy weight. Different person entirely. A folded photograph. Worn from being touched too many times. A woman, Ethan's mother, Reaper would learn later, with dark hair and kind eyes. I tried telling people, Ethan whispered, voice breaking on every third word. I tried. The uneven rhythm of Ethan's steps had covered 40 feet to reach Reaper. 90 seconds of moving through ice and cold and terror. Every step a negotiation with a body that didn't have energy to spare. Reaper had noticed that sound. The way Ethan's left foot dragged slightly. The labored breathing every 4 or 5 steps. The way he'd stopped twice. Once to cough into his sleeve. Body shaking. Once to close his eyes and gather courage. Lips moving in whispered mantra. Just ask. Just ask. Just ask. 4 rejections before reaching Reaper. The young couple. Mid-30s. Target shopping bags. Silver Honda CR-V. Ethan had approached carefully. Started to ask, "Excuse me, could you—" The man cut him off. "We don't have any cash." Never made eye contact. Pulled his wife closer. Sped up. The wife glanced back. Nervous. Guilty. But her husband whispered loud enough for Ethan to hear. Don't encourage them. That had hurt. The assumption. The way they'd treated Ethan like he was dangerous. Someone to avoid. Before he could even explain. The elderly man. 70s. Detroit Lions jacket. Walking small terrier that strained against its leash. Whining. Sensing Ethan's distress in that way animals do. Ethan had knelt down. Less threatening. Tried. "Sir, I'm not asking for money, I just need—" The old man interrupted. "I'm sorry, son. I can't help you. My fixed income—" He'd pulled the dog's leash. Walked away quickly. Even sympathy doesn't translate to action. The emotional wound deepened. If kind people won't help, who will? The 3 college students, early 20s, Ethan's age, coming from movie theater across the street, laughing, carrying drinks from the concession stand. Ethan tried to connect. "Hey, I used to go to Wayne State too, One girl saw his Wayne State hoodie, whispered to her friends. They laughed. One guy said mockingly, "Yeah, bro, we all have hard classes." They walked past. One deliberately bumped him. Ethan stumbled, caught himself against brick wall. His damaged wrist protested. His peers, people his own age who should understand, had treated him like a joke. The mockery burned worse than the cold. They thought he was in this situation by choice, that he'd given up. They didn't know. Nobody knew. But the fourth rejection. That one shattered something Ethan didn't know he still had left to break. The church group, 5 women, ages 40 to 65, carrying casserole dishes from a community outreach event at First Methodist 3 blocks away, all wearing matching "Blessed to be a Blessing" church t-shirts under winter coats. Ethan had seen those shirts. Thought, they'll help. They have to help. Their shirts literally say, "Blessed to be a blessing." He'd approached carefully, voice soft. "Please, I'm not looking for money. I just need someone to listen. My stepfather, he's—" The lead woman interrupted. Perfectly styled gray hair, manicured nails visible even in winter gloves, voice dripping with condescension disguised as concern. "Young man, we help people through proper channels. If you need assistance, come to our church office Monday morning with ID and fill out an application. We have a process. We can't just help every person on the street who tells us a story. That's how people take advantage of good Christians." Another woman added, smiling like she was doing Ethan a favor by offering advice. "Have you tried getting a job? McDonald's is always hiring. God helps those who help themselves, honey." Ethan had stood there, silent. Because what could he say? Their proper channels meant he'd be dead by Monday morning. The blizzard was coming tonight. He had nowhere to go. But they walked away, casserole dishes still warm, heading to their heated homes, their charitable work done for the week. "Every person on the street who tells us a story." They didn't believe him. God helps those who help themselves. They thought he wasn't trying, wasn't worthy. The hypocrisy had broken something fundamental. If people who wore charity like a badge wouldn't help, people whose faith commanded them to protect the vulnerable, then who would? That's when Ethan saw the bikers. 47 Hells Angels inside Rusty's Roadhouse. Chapter meeting night. Another 12 outside smoking, talking in groups of 3 or 4. Parking lot lined with 35 motorcycles. Men who looked like danger. Like the kind of people you cross the street to avoid. Like everything society teaches you to fear. But Ethan was out of options. Out of time. Out of hope that safe-looking people would act with compassion. So he'd aimed for the most intimidating-looking man in the parking lot. Marcus Reaper Colton. 6'4" wall of leather and scars, missing fingers, face marked by war. Patch reading Sergeant at Arms, which Ethan didn't understand but sounded important, and Ethan had whispered the only words he had left. "Please, can you be brave for me?" Because Ethan couldn't be brave anymore. Had nothing left. Needed someone else to carry the courage he'd lost. Now, in Reaper's arms, the dam truly broke. "He broke my wrist 17 months ago." Ethan held up his left hand. The injury had healed incorrectly, affecting mobility. "See? Never took me to hospital. I weigh 127 pounds. Used to be 168. I have asthma. He took my medication. There's a blizzard coming. I have nowhere to go. He'll say I ran away. I'll die out here, and nobody will know it wasn't an accident." Tears now, silent, streaming down gaunt cheeks, body shaking, cold and grief and terror and relief all at once. "I tried telling people. CPS came. He lied. They left. Police came. He lied. They left. I'm 20. I'm an adult. Nobody cares what happens to adults. But I'm dying. He's waiting for me to die. And he's going to get away with it. 4 seconds of silence. Reaper's jaw clenched. His hands, one flesh, one prosthetic, curled into fists. Then his voice, steady as bedrock. Not anymore, he's not. Reaper pulled off his leather jacket. Heavy, warm from his body heat. Draped it around Ethan's shaking shoulders. The jacket swallowed him. Smelled like leather and motor oil and cigarette smoke and something Ethan had almost forgotten existed. Safety. Reaper's hand stayed on Ethan's shoulder, tethering him to earth, to hope, to life. What's your name, kid? Ethan. Ethan Cole Brennan. Ethan. Reaper nodded once. I'm Marcus. My brothers call me Reaper. And I need you to understand something. You asked me to be brave for you. I will. We will. But first, you need to tell me everything. Who hurt you? How long? What you need? Can you do that? Ethan nodded. Couldn't speak. Could only nod. Tank stepped forward. 6'1", barrel-chested, former army medic with 2 tours in Afghanistan. Road name earned because he'd driven a tank in Kandahar and because nothing could knock him down. Kid needs food, Tank said quietly. And medical. Look at his breathing. That's not just cold. That's infection. Chains approached next. Gerald Chains Rodriguez, 47. Former Detroit PD detective, 19 years on the force before early retirement. Got his road name because he'd spent 2 decades building cases that put criminals behind bars, and because he understood how evidence worked. Those marks around his neck, Chains said, voice measured. Professional. Recent bruising. And look at his wrists, scarring consistent with restraint over time. Prophet joined the circle. James Prophet Walsh, 54, former high school counselor, psychology degree, trauma specialist. Road name because he had uncanny ability to see what people needed before they asked. Prophet knelt to Ethan's level, made eye contact, gentle, steady, no pressure. Ethan, I'm Prophet. I used to work with people who'd been through trauma. You're safe with us. We're not going to hurt you. We're not going to send you back. We're going to help. But we need information. Can you tell us what happened? Take your time. And Ethan, exhausted, starving, terrified, but finally believed, told them. The story came out in pieces. Fragments. Timeline jumping because trauma doesn't present linearly. My mom died 22 months ago. Car accident. Single-car collision, they said. But Richard, my stepfather, he'd been working on her car that morning. And after she died, he got $340,000 from her life insurance. Policy he'd convinced her to increase 3 months before the accident. Chains pulled out a notebook, started writing. Dates, names, dollar amounts. Richard married my mom 4 years ago. I was 16. He seemed okay at first. Strict, but not scary. Then Mom died and everything changed. Ethan's voice cracked. He coughed. Wet, concerning sound that made Tank wince. At first it was just criticism. Your mother would want you to be stronger. Then restrictions. Locked my bedroom door at night for safety. Checked my phone, my email. Limited who I could see. Until you show more responsibility. Prophet nodded. Classic pattern. Isolation before escalation. 17 months ago I talked back. Told him he wasn't my father. Couldn't control me. He grabbed my wrist. I heard something snap. He said if I went to the hospital he'd tell them I attacked him first. That I was troubled, had behavioral problems. that no one would believe me. Ethan held up his damaged wrist, the injury visible in how he held it. He moved me to the basement temporarily after that. Said I needed to learn respect. That room became my prison. Concrete floor, single bulb, no windows, maybe 50 degrees, one thin blanket. He locked the door from outside. Bathroom breaks on schedule, twice daily. Tank's hands curled into fists. His medic training screamed at the conditions. Hypothermia risk, dehydration, systematic deprivation. He locked the kitchen pantry, all the food, heavy padlock, gave me 1 meal daily if I earned it. Portions measured. I got 15 minutes to eat. If I didn't finish fast enough, he'd take it away. If I complained, I got nothing the next day. Chains looked up from his notebook. How many calories daily would you estimate? Maybe 400 to 700. My body needs 2,000. I lost 41 pounds in 19 months. Prophet's face darkened. And medical care? None. My asthma got worse without medication. He kept my inhaler locked with the food. Said I could earn doses if I showed proper attitude. Infections went untreated. When I got sick, he said it was my own fault for not being stronger. Reaper's voice cut through. Pure steel. Did anyone try to help? Anyone call authorities? 13 months ago, CPS came. Anonymous tip, I think from my college advisor after I disappeared from Wayne State. They knocked. Richard answered. Showed them an upstairs bedroom. Staged, clean, looked lived in. Said I was at work. I was in the basement. I heard everything. I tried banging on the pipes, screamed, but Richard turned the radio up loud, covered the sound. Ethan's voice broke completely. CPS left after one visit. Closed the case. Said everything looked fine. I was over 18 by then, legally adult. They said Richard couldn't be forced to house me, that if I was unhappy I could leave. But I had no ID, no money, nowhere to go. 4 system failures. Ethan listed them like entries in a ledger he'd memorized. 9 months ago, Detroit police did welfare check. Ethan's aunt, his mother's sister in Arizona, couldn't reach him, requested officers visit. They knocked. Richard was so cooperative. Said I'd moved to Ohio for fresh start. Gave them fake address. Showed them text messages from me that he'd sent from my confiscated phone. Officers left satisfied. 4 months ago, Wayne State's academic advisor noticed Ethan's disappearance mid-semester. Financial aid unused. Unusual pattern. Advisor called. Richard said I had mental health crisis, needed time off, family handling it privately. He forged medical documentation. Advisor legally couldn't force wellness check on adult student. Wayne State withdrew me. I lost my student status. No more institutional oversight. 7 weeks ago, Richard's factory co-worker noticed suspicious patterns. Guy named Jerry, 52, worked with Richard 8 years. Jerry asked about his boy. Richard's answers kept changing. Jerry mentioned concerns to their supervisor. HR called Richard in. What happened? Chains asked. HR can't investigate employees' home life without evidence of crime. Richard showed old photos of me when I was healthy. Explained I have issues, that he's trying tough love. Jerry got reprimanded for spreading concerns about a respected colleague. He requested transfer. They denied it. Prophet closed his eyes. Every intervention blocked by procedure, by benefit of doubt, extended to people who wear respectability like armor. But there's more, Ethan said quietly. Evidence. Proof. He pulled a phone from the lining of his hoodie pocket. Old flip phone. Battery at 8%. Duct tape held it against fabric. 11 days ago. Tuesday, December 10th, almost midnight. I was in the basement, couldn't sleep. Cold and hungry. The heating vent carries sound from the kitchen above. Richard was drinking. Video call with his girlfriend, Melissa. Ethan's hands shook as he powered on the phone, found the audio file. 4 minutes, 33 seconds. He played it. Richard's voice, slightly distant but clear through the cheap speakers. Look, baby, I know you're tired of waiting, but we're talking about $427,000, plus what's left of the trust fund. Over 600 grand total. Sound of glass on table. Drinking. The kid's at 127 pounds now, down from 168. Medical information I found online said at this rate, maybe 8-9 weeks before the body just gives out. Organ failure from malnutrition. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just not enabling his poor choices anymore. Melissa's voice, distant. That's so long, though. It'll look natural. Medical examiner will see malnutrition, but he's 20, legally adult, living here by his own choice. I'll say I tried to help. He refused. Just like when his mother... Pause. Drinking. Nobody questioned that one either. Longer pause. By Valentine's Day, you and me, we'll be in Myrtle Beach. New truck, no debt, good money in the bank. Just gotta be patient a little longer. Kid doesn't even fight back anymore. He's giving up. The recording ended. Silence. Heavy. The kind that happens when evil becomes real instead of theoretical. Reaper's voice was barely controlled rage. He killed your mother, too. Ethan nodded, tears streaming. I can't prove it, but I know. Her brake lines, the insurance money, the timing. And now he's waiting for me to die the same way. Chains looked at Reaper, then at Tank and Prophet. Brotherhood communication. No words needed. We need priest, Chains said, and every brother within 200 miles. Reaper nodded, looked at Ethan. Kid, you asked me to be brave for you. Here's what brave looks like. He pulled out his phone, made a call that would change everything. Priest, it's Reaper! Military command in his voice now. Not a request, a mobilization. I need every brother within 200 miles at the clubhouse, now! Brief pause. Priest's voice on the other end asked something. We've got a 20-year-old in crisis, severe neglect, escaping from what sounds like a plan to let him die for insurance money. Guardian appears to have killed his mother for similar payout, spent his inheritance, and is waiting for nature to take its course so he can collect another $427,000. Kid's got audio proof. Recording. And Blizzard hits in 4 hours. If we don't act now, Richard Brennan gets away with it. Another pause. Yeah. Every single one. Reaper looked at Ethan. The line went dead. And that was it. Because that's what brotherhood means. Within minutes, phones across Michigan were ringing. Text messages flying. Emergency call-outs going to every patched member from Detroit, Downriver, and Ann Arbor chapters. Tank was already guiding Ethan toward a pickup truck. We're getting you food and medical. Prophet's calling ahead to Detroit Receiving Hospital. They've got people who understand trauma situations. Doc's meeting us there. Doc? Ethan asked. Doctor, William Harrison. We call him Doc. Combat medic, Vietnam vet. He'll treat you right. Inside Tank's truck, heat blasting, seat warmers on. Ethan sat wrapped in Reaper's jacket. Still shaking. But not from cold anymore. From hope. Terrifying, fragile hope that maybe he'd survive this. Tank handed him a protein bar from the glove compartment. Slow bites, small amounts. Your body's not used to regular food. We gotta reintroduce nutrients carefully, or you'll get refeeding syndrome. Doc will explain. Ethan took the smallest bite. Chewed slowly. His stomach cramped immediately. Months of irregular eating had taught it to reject normal portions. Prophet sat in the back seat. Gentle presence. Ethan, I need to ask some hard questions. You can say no. You can tell me to stop. But the more we know, the better we can help, okay? Ethan nodded. This trust fund Richard mentioned. How much was it? $186,000. My mother's life insurance, set up for my education and future. Richard's the trustee until I turn 21. He's withdrawn about $139,000 so far. There's maybe $47,000 left. Where'd the money go? 2024 Ford F-250 truck, $15,000 down payment. Gambling debts at Greektown Casino, $41,000. Timeshare in Myrtle Beach with his girlfriend, $52,000. Engagement ring, almost $9,000. Motorcycle, $28,000. Prophet wrote everything down. And the insurance policy on you? $427,000. Taken out 3 months after Mom died. March 2023. Right after he became my legal guardian. Beneficiary is Richard. There's a clause that increases payout if death occurs from unintentional causes, exposure, malnutrition complications, untreated illness. Prophet's pen stopped moving. Jesus. There's more, Ethan whispered. I found documents, bank statements. He's been taking $8,400 monthly from the trust for guardianship expenses. Actual costs for me? Maybe $200 a month. He was spending my inheritance while barely feeding me. At Detroit Receiving Hospital, Dr. William Doc Harrison waited at the entrance. 58 years old, white beard, kind eyes, Purple Heart recipient, EMT certified, carried medical supplies on his bike everywhere he went. He took one look at Ethan, and his expression shifted from concern to controlled medical urgency. Examination room 3, now. Within 20 minutes, Doc had documented everything. Each injury photographed, each measurement recorded. BMI 17.2, Doc said quietly. Critical threshold is 16.5. You're dangerously close, son. Another month like this and we're talking serious organ complications. He examined Ethan's wrist. This healed incorrectly. You'll need surgery eventually, but right now malnutrition and respiratory infection take priority. The scarring on Ethan's wrists. Consistent with prolonged restraint, extended period, repetitive trauma to the same areas. The marks on Ethan's right forearm. Multiple burn marks. Various healing stages. Some old, some more recent. Doc met Reaper's eyes. This is systematic neglect and abuse. Prolonged, calculated, documented. At the clubhouse 3 miles away, Victor Priest Dalton read Reaper's text for the 3rd time. Club president, 58 years old, former Army chaplain, 2 tours Iraq, 1 Afghanistan. Lost his son to suicide after returning from combat. Spent 15 years making sure no other father lost a child to preventable tragedy. Priest stood, walked to center of the clubhouse where 40 men waited, all wearing cuts, all ready. Brothers, his voice carried authority without volume. We have a 20-year-old named Ethan Brennan who just walked up to Reaper outside Rusty's and asked us to be brave for him. For 19 months he's been held in conditions I won't detail, neglected systematically by the man who was supposed to protect him. That man appears to have killed Ethan's mother for insurance money 22 months ago. Now he's waiting for Ethan to die so he can collect another $427,000. The room went silent. Heavy. Ethan has audio recording proving the plan. He has documentation of financial theft. He has a body covered in evidence of systematic abuse. And he came to us because every official channel failed him. CPS, police, schools, social workers. The system didn't just fail, it actively enabled this. Priest looked around the room, at men who'd fought wars, who'd lost people, who understood protection was sacred duty. This isn't a request for volunteers. This is a mobilization. I want Detroit Metro Chapter, Downriver Chapter, and Ann Arbor Chapter ready to roll by dawn tomorrow. We're going to investigate Richard Brennan. We're going to build a case so airtight that every system failure has to answer for it. We're going to make sure Ethan Brennan survives and that this never happens to anyone else. He paused. All in favor? For a moment, nothing. Just the ticking of the clock on the wall and the distant sound of engines outside. Then every single hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation, not a single dissenting voice. 40 men voting unanimously to help a young man they'd never met. Priest nodded once. Then we ride at dawn. By midnight, the text messages had reached every Hells Angels chapter in Michigan. By 2 a.m., brothers were loading trucks, preparing bikes, checking equipment. By dawn, the largest coordinated mobilization in Michigan Hells Angels history would begin. Dawn broke over Detroit at 7:14 a.m. on Friday, December 22nd. Temperature, 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill, -4. The blizzard had started overnight. 3 inches of snow already, forecast calling for another 8 by evening. And from 3 different directions, thunder began to build. Not weather. Engines. The rumble started low. Distant. Like a storm rolling in from the horizon. Then it grew into a roar that shook windows on Crane Street and set off car alarms for 6 blocks. 217 motorcycles converging on a single address. 1847 Crane Street. Richard Brennan's house. Industrial district, quiet neighborhood where people minded their business and asked no questions. The formation pulled out in disciplined rows. Tight, smooth, practiced from years of riding together. Detroit Metro, chapter led, 73 bikes. Downriver chapter flanked left, 68 bikes. Ann Arbor chapter flanked right, 76 bikes. They rolled in like a storm. Leather jackets bearing the same insignia, chrome gleaming against white snow. Faces set with purpose, military precision. Now, you might be thinking 217 Hells Angels roaring up to a suburban house means chaos brewing, confrontation ready, violence imminent. That's the story you expected, isn't it? Maybe years ago that's exactly what would have happened. Rage unchecked, justice delivered through force. But Priest didn't build a brotherhood on fury. He built it on strategy. The bikes parked in perfect formation along both sides of Crane Street, 3 rows deep. Engines cutting off in waves, timed, synchronized, until only silence remained. The sudden quiet after all that noise felt heavy. Expectant. 217 men standing there. Not moving. Not shouting. Simply present. A wall of leather and ink and controlled power. Priest stood at the center. Victor Dalton. Silver beard trimmed neat. Reading glasses hanging from chain around his neck. Former chaplain who'd counseled soldiers through hell and guided them back. To his right, Reaper. Still wearing the same clothes from last night, hadn't slept, had stayed at the hospital with Ethan until Doc cleared him for protective custody. To his left, Chains. Ex-detective with 20 years of knowing exactly how to build cases that prosecutors couldn't lose. Behind them, Kevin, Bite, Chen. 29. Youngest patched member. Cybersecurity expert. Former Army intelligence. Digital forensics specialist. Carried equipment bags full of tools that could retrieve evidence from devices people thought they'd wiped clean. Everyone clear on the mission? Priest's voice carried without volume. This is evidence operation. We're not here for confrontation. We're here to build a case so airtight, Richard Brennan spends the rest of his life answering for what he did. We do this right. We do this legal. We do it so thoroughly that every system that failed Ethan has to answer for it. Heads nodded. Grim determination. Chains, bite, documents, and digital evidence. Reaper, you're with me on witness statements. Doc, medical liaison, coordinate with Ethan's care team. Tank, Prophet. Victim support, stay with Ethan. Keep him safe and stable. The operation began with coordinated efficiency of men who'd ridden together for years. Not a protest fueled by anger. A peaceful stand. Systematic. Thorough. Bite approached Richard's house first. Not to break in. That would compromise evidence. To document. He walked the perimeter with professional-grade camera, photographing everything. The basement window. 6 inches by 12 inches. Too small for an adult to escape through. Bars visible on the inside. The kitchen window. Heavy padlock visible on what should have been pantry door. Photographed from outside, clear documentation. The new Ford F-250 in driveway. $43,000 of Ethan's inheritance sitting there. License plate, VIN number, purchase date visible on dealer sticker still in window. Meanwhile, chains knocked on 1845 Crane Street. House directly next door. Gerald Jerry Hoskins answered. 52 years old. Factory worker. Richard's co-worker for 8 years. Flannel shirt. Coffee mug in hand. Eyes widened at the wall of motorcycles lining his street. Mr. Hoskins? Chains showed old detective credentials. I need to ask about your neighbor, Richard Brennan. Jerry's hands shook. Jesus. This is about Ethan, isn't it? You know Ethan? I never met him, but I knew something was wrong. Jerry set his coffee down, hands trembling. Richard talked about his boy at work, but the stories never lined up. One week Ethan was at college, next week he'd dropped out. Then he'd moved to Ohio. Then he was back, but going through difficult times. Did you report this? Jerry's voice cracked. I tried, 6 months ago. Mentioned inconsistencies to our supervisor. Suggested maybe someone should check on the family. HR called Richard in. What happened? Richard showed them photos. Old photos of Ethan looking healthy. Said the kid had issues, that he was trying structured support. HR said they legally can't investigate employees' home life without evidence of crime. I got reprimanded for spreading concerns about a respected colleague. Jerry couldn't meet Chains's eyes. I requested transfer to different shift. They denied it. So I had to work next to Richard every day, knowing something was wrong but having zero power to do anything about it. His voice broke completely. Is Ethan okay? Please tell me he's alive. He's alive, in bad shape, very underweight, untreated medical issues. He escaped months ago. Your instincts were right. Jerry sat down hard, put his head in his hands. I knew. God, I knew. And I didn't push hard enough. Didn't fight the system. Just accepted their answer and went back to work. Mr. Hoskins, you tried. That's more than most. But we need formal statement, everything you observed, every inconsistency. 3 houses down, Reaper knocked on 1850 Crane Street. Patricia Ann Morrison answered. 67 years old, lived there 12 years, hair in curlers, cardigan wrapped tight despite heat blasting from inside. Mrs. Morrison, I'm investigating Richard Brennan. Did you ever hear anything concerning from his house? Patricia's face went pale. "Oh God, the sounds that I heard things." "What things?" "Crying, late at night. Not every night, but weekly? Maybe more. Someone in distress. Then it would just stop. Suddenly. Like someone had made it stop." Her hands gripped the doorframe. "I heard it for months, maybe a year. I thought about calling police, or Adult Protective Services, but Richard is so respected. Deacon at church, coaches youth baseball. And I didn't know for certain, you understand? I didn't want to accuse a good man over sounds that might have been television or something innocent." "Did you ever see Ethan?" "Once. 8 months ago, maybe 9. Early morning. He was at the mailbox. So thin. Looked unwell. He glanced at me like he wanted to say something, but then Richard came out, put his arm around him in what looked friendly, smiled at me, took him back inside." Patricia's voice dropped to whisper. "The way that young man moved, like he expected something bad, like he was waiting for pain. I saw it. I recognized it. And I did nothing." "Why not?" "Because I'm old, and I live alone, and what if I was wrong? What if I called authorities and caused problems over nothing? Richard could have made my life difficult, and I chose comfort over courage." Tears now. "That boy suffered because I was a coward." Chains wrote everything down. "We'll need formal statement, ma'am." By 9 a.m., Chains and Reaper had collected statements from 5 neighbors. Each one a variation of the same theme. "I saw something. I heard something. I suspected something. I did nothing because I didn't want to interfere, didn't want to be wrong, didn't want the inconvenience of being involved." Bite, meanwhile, was at Wayne County Records Office downtown. Pulled Richard Brennan's financial records, the public ones. Property records showing mortgage payoff in full. June 2024. $47,000. Vehicle registration for 2024. Ford F-250. Purchased March to 4. $15,000 down payment. Court documents showing Richard petitioned for guardianship of Ethan Cole Brennan, April 2023, 1 month after Diana Brennan's death. Granted without opposition. But the insurance documents stopped Bite cold. In the same folder with Ethan's policy, $427,000, beneficiary Richard Brennan, taken out March 2023, was another policy. Older one. Life insurance on Diana Marie Brennan, taken out 8 years earlier when Richard and Diana married. Original amount? $100,000. But there was an amendment. Policy increase dated July 2022. New amount, $340,000. Date of Diana's death, October 14, 2022. 3 months after the increase. Payout amount, $340,000. Processed November 2. Beneficiary, Richard Anthony Brennan. And underneath, a note in the insurance investigator's file marked, resolved, accidental death. But the medical examiner had added comment. Brake system failure unusual given vehicle age and maintenance records. Vehicle only 3 years old, regularly serviced. Mechanical failure unexpected. Recommend further investigation into possibility of tampering. That recommendation had been ignored. Case closed. Payout processed. Bite pulled out his phone. Called Chains. We've got a pattern. Richard collected on Diana's death for $340,000, then positioned himself as Ethan's guardian to steal his inheritance too. This isn't his first victim. It's his second. Chains relayed that to Priest. The club president closed his eyes, breathed slowly through controlled anger. When he opened them, his voice was steel. Then we make sure there's no third. Bite, pull every financial record legally accessible. Every dollar Richard spent from both payouts. Chains, contact the medical examiner who worked Diana's case. Get their professional opinion on record. Reaper, find out if Richard has any other insurance policies we don't know about. At 11:30 a.m., Chains made a call to Dr. Elizabeth Warren, medical examiner, Wayne County, 43 years old, 20 years experience, worked Diana Brennan's autopsy in 2022. Dr. Warren, Gerald Rodriguez, I'm investigating Richard Brennan for financial crimes and endangerment of his stepson. I understand you performed autopsy on Diana Brennan 2 years ago. I remember that case. Dr. Warren's voice was careful. Single-car collision. Brake system failure. Your report noted the mechanical condition was unusual. A pause. Yes. The vehicle was a 2019 Honda Accord, only 3 years old. Maintenance records showed regular service every 6 months. Brake system should have been fine. But it showed premature wear, inconsistent with vehicle age and documented care. Did you recommend investigation? I noted my concerns in the report, suggested police follow up on possibility of mechanical tampering, but, she sighed. The husband, Richard, was cooperative, appeared grief-stricken, no criminal history, respected community member, and the insurance company was eager to close the case and pay out. My recommendation was overlooked. Did you know Richard had increased Diana's policy from $100,000 to $340,000 3 months before her death? Long silence. No, that wasn't in the information provided to me. And did you know Richard is now guardian of Diana's son, controls his $186,000 trust fund, has taken out $427,000 policy on the young man? And we have audio recording of Richard discussing waiting for him to die from natural causes so he can collect? Dr. Warren's voice changed. Professional concern. Dear God! Would you be willing to testify that Diana's death should be reclassified from accidental to suspicious pending investigation? Absolutely. I'll file amended report today. That case should be reopened immediately. By 1 p.m., Byte had compiled financial forensics that would make prosecutors grateful. Every withdrawal Richard made from Ethan's trust account, every purchase, every bill paid with money that wasn't his. Total taken, $139,000. Remaining balance, $47,000. Breakdown, Ford F-250, $15,000 down payment. Greektown Casino gambling debts, $41,000. Myrtle Beach timeshare, $52,000. Engagement ring for Melissa, $8,900. Harley-Davidson motorcycle, $28,000. Monthly guardianship expenses, $8,400 month for 19 months. Actual documented costs, $200 month. Byte had also recovered communications from Richard's account through legal subpoena to his service provider. Email to attorney, dated May 2024. Question regarding trust fund distribution if beneficiary deceased before age 21. What documentation required? Email to insurance broker, dated August 2024. Need to update beneficiaries on existing policies. Can we discuss options? Text messages between Richard and Melissa, girlfriend, recovered from cloud backup. November 28, 2024. Problem resolving itself. Another month or two should handle it. Then we're free and clear. Melissa. You're taking a risk. Richard. Risk already managed. This is just waiting. At 2:47 p.m., Chains walked up to 1847 Crane Street. Priest beside him. Reaper flanking. Byte recording everything on body camera. Legal, documented, admissible. Behind them, 217 motorcycles lined the street. 217 men watching, waiting. Chains knocked firmly. Richard Brennan answered after 30 seconds. Clean-shaven. Reading glasses. Wearing Carhartt work jacket and jeans. There was grease on his hands. He'd been working on his truck in the garage. Wrench visible on workbench behind him. NPR playing quietly from radio. He looked confused, slightly annoyed, like a man interrupted during normal Saturday morning of home maintenance. Just a regular person. Working class. Respectable. Evil wears ordinary faces. Predators look like neighbors. "Can I help you?" Richard's voice was measured, calm, reasonable. "Richard Allen Brennan?" "Yes?" Chains held up credentials. "Gerald Rodriguez, working with Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. We're here regarding Ethan Cole Brennan." Chains watched Richard's face carefully, looking for tells. Not a flicker. Smooth. Practiced. "I haven't seen Ethan in months. He left last March. I filed missing persons report." "Interesting. We pulled that report. You filed it April 2024, 1 month after he left. Marked him as adult with behavioral difficulties stemming from mother's death. No active search. Just paper trail. Ethan has challenges, emotional challenges after Diana died. I tried to help. We have bank records showing you withdrew $139,000 from his trust account. Paid off your mortgage. Bought a truck. We have witness statements from neighbors who heard distress from your basement. We have testimony from your co-worker who tried reporting concerns and was silenced. We have medical evidence showing prolonged neglect, untreated medical conditions, systematic deprivation." Richard's face went carefully blank. "I'd like to speak to my attorney." "That's your right." Chains stepped back. "Detective?" 3 Wayne County Sheriff's vehicles pulled up. Detective Amanda Foster stepped out. Special Victims Unit, 17 years experience. 39 years old. Initially skeptical when Chains brought her this case at 6 a.m., not skeptical anymore after reviewing Bite's evidence package. "Richard Anthony Brennan, you're under arrest." Her voice carried across quiet street. Clear, authoritative. Adult endangerment, unlawful restraint of dependent adult, theft of funds held in trust, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit negligent homicide, and we're reopening investigation into Diana Brennan's death for suspected foul play. You have the right to remain silent. They read him his rights there in the driveway. Professional. By the book. Richard's face against hood of his truck, the same truck he'd bought with Ethan's money, as they secured him. The same hands that had caused Ethan's injuries now restrained behind his back. The neighbors came out to watch. Jerry Hoskins from next door. Patricia Morrison from across the street. Father Thomas Brennan from St. Matthew's Church, where Richard volunteered. Lisa Chen, bank teller who'd processed Richard's suspicious trust fund withdrawals and never questioned them. All standing on porches, watching justice arrive 19 months too late. At the clubhouse, Ethan sat with Tank and Prophet. Heard about the arrest by phone. Priest called personally. "It's done. He's in custody. Arraignment is Monday, but Amanda Foster is recommending $500,000 bail. He likely won't make it. The evidence we've collected is—" Priest paused. "Ethan, he's going away for a very long time, and we're reopening your mother's case. Medical examiner is filing amended report." Ethan couldn't speak, could only hold the phone while tears ran down his face. Tank wrapped an arm around him. Prophet squeezed his hand. "You're safe," Priest said. "Finally, truly safe." The paperwork took 4 days to process. Emergency protective support granted to State of Michigan with Hells Angels Michigan chapters designated as Ethan's temporary support network, pending his 21st birthday. Unprecedented, unusual. But Assistant Prosecutor Amanda Foster had argued persuasively that the system had already failed Ethan 4 times. CPS, police, school, workplace, and this brotherhood had succeeded where every institution collapsed. Judge Robert Martinez sat in his chambers looking at Ethan, still wearing Reaper's leather jacket, still at dangerously low weight, still carrying his mother's stethoscope in waterproofed bag, and made a decision that would be studied in adult protective services for years. Mr. Brennan, I'm granting protective support structure through Hells Angels Michigan under state supervision. You'll have weekly check-ins with court-appointed advocate, monthly medical reviews, but you'll be housed, supported, and protected by people who've proven they'll fight for you. Does this feel safe? Ethan nodded, unable to speak, because safe was a word he'd forgotten existed. By December 28th, Ethan was living in an apartment 4 blocks from the Detroit Metro Clubhouse. 1 bedroom, furnished by brothers who'd pooled resources, couch from Tank's storage unit, kitchen table from Chains's extra furniture, bed frame and mattress purchased new. Priest had insisted, "Young man deserves something that's his, never used, never someone else's cast off." Rent paid 6 months in advance by club treasury. Not charity, Priest insisted. Investment in family. Doc Harrison visited daily for the first 3 weeks. Monitoring refeeding syndrome, dangerous condition where malnourished bodies can't handle normal food without medical supervision. Your body forgot how to process nutrients properly, Doc explained gently, sitting at Ethan's new kitchen table. We have to teach it again. 6 small meals daily. Protein, complex carbs, healthy fats. Portions the size of your fist at first, but in a month you'll notice the difference. Every meal planned, every calorie counted. Protein shakes between meals. Vitamins. Slow reintroduction under doctor's orders. Bite set up Ethan's apartment with security. Cameras at entry points. Reinforced deadbolts. Panic button connected directly to Clubhouse. Press it. Brothers arrive in under 4 minutes. You never have to be afraid of someone breaking in again, Bite said, showing Ethan how everything worked on the tablet mounted by the door. And we've filed restraining order against Richard. He made bail, $500,000, his attorney convinced judge. But he can't come within 1,000 feet of you or this address. He tries, he goes back to jail immediately. Ethan stared at the security panel. He made bail? His attorney is Bradley Kirkman. Expensive. Richard must have liquidated everything. But don't worry, bail just means he's out until trial. Trial's set for March. 3 months. And Amanda Foster says evidence is so overwhelming, Kirkman's already approaching her about a plea deal. Chains handled legal coordination, visited Ethan twice weekly, updating him on case progress. Richard's attorney knows he can't win, Chains explained one afternoon. They sat in Ethan's living room, Chains in the armchair, Ethan on the couch wrapped in blanket. Financial records alone are damning. Add witness testimonies, your medical evidence, the recording, reopened investigation into your mother's death. Kirkman's talking 8 years with no parole eligibility for 5. And if he doesn't take the deal? We go to trial. Amanda's talking 15 to 20 years on all charges combined. But trials are hard, Ethan. You'd have to testify. Face Richard in court. Relive everything. Ethan touched the stethoscope around his neck. His mother's. What about Mom? The reopened investigation? De Warren reclassified Diana's death from accidental to suspicious. Full investigation opened. If they prove Richard tampered with the vehicle, that's first-degree murder. Life sentence, no parole. Ethan's voice barely whispered. Good. She deserves justice, too. Reaper became Ethan's primary mentor. Every Tuesday and Thursday, picked him up for what he called recovery sessions. Sometimes just breakfast at Galaxy Diner 3 blocks away, teaching Ethan it was okay to eat in public, that no one would take food away, that he could order whatever he wanted. You like pancakes? Reaper asked the first morning, reading the menu. Ethan stared at the options, paralyzed. 19 months of having every choice controlled made simple decisions feel impossible. I don't know. Then we try pancakes today. Eggs tomorrow. Keep trying till you figure out what you like. That's allowed now, kid. Preferences, choices, having opinions about small things. Other times, it was physical therapy for Ethan's wrist. Surgery scheduled for February. Pins and plates to reset bone properly. Until then, exercises to maintain mobility. You're a survivor, Reaper said one Thursday, watching Ethan struggle through grip strength exercises. Survivors deserve working hands. We'll get you fixed up. Prophet-handled therapeutic coordination. Found Dr. Sarah Kim, trauma specialist, 20 years experience with abuse survivors. Twice weekly sessions. Healing isn't linear, Dr. Kim explained in their first session. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel like you're back in that basement. Both are okay. Both are part of the process. Ethan learned to talk about the basement. The hunger. The isolation. The overheard conversation that drove him to escape. He learned his hypervigilance, constantly scanning exits, flinching at sudden movements, was survival mechanism that kept him alive, but didn't have to control him forever. And slowly, over weeks that turned into months, Ethan started believing he might actually survive, not just physically, but emotionally. By January, Ethan had gained 19 pounds. 146 pounds. Still underweight, but no longer critical. Respiratory infection cleared with antibiotics. Asthma controlled with proper medication. Color returning to his face. Dark circles fading. His uneven gait improved as physical therapy strengthened weakened muscles. Still noticeable, but less pronounced. Less painful. Tank helped Ethan enroll in community college. General education courses. Figure out what you want to study. No pressure. Just learn. Byte taught Ethan basic tech skills. Digital literacy matters. Email, resume building, job applications. We'll get you set up. In February, Richard took the plea deal. 8 years in Michigan Department of Corrections. No parole eligibility for 5 years. Housed at Macomb Correctional Facility, 70 miles from Detroit. The day of sentencing, Ethan sat in courtroom with Reaper on one side, Priest on the other. Doc behind them. Chains near prosecutor's table. Byte in back documenting. Judge Martinez looked at Richard. Orange jumpsuit, hands restrained, face carefully neutral, and delivered statement quoted in every news article about the case. Mr. Brennan, you were entrusted with care of a young man who'd just lost his mother. Instead of protecting him, you imprisoned him. Instead of nurturing him, you neglected him systematically. Instead of honoring the woman who trusted you, evidence suggests you took her life for money and attempted to profit from her son's death. You are a predator who wore the mask of respectability while committing calculated acts. I sentence you to 8 years. I only wish the law allowed me more. Richard looked back at Ethan once. Just once. What Ethan saw wasn't remorse. It was anger at being caught. But Ethan didn't flinch, didn't look away. stared back with strength of someone who'd survived Richard's worst and come out the other side. Outside the courthouse, Priest gave brief statement to assembled press. 217 brothers forming protective barrier between Ethan and cameras. Today, justice was served. But this story isn't about motorcycles or patches. It's about a 20-year-old who chose courage on the coldest night of the year, who asked strangers to be brave for him, who survived because he refused to disappear. We protected him because that's what family does. And we'll keep protecting him until he doesn't need us anymore. But the story didn't end with Richard's sentencing. It continued with reform. Within 3 months, Michigan legislators introduced Ethan's Law, requiring annual independent audits for all trust accounts involving dependent adults with deceased parents, signed into law by October. Wayne County CPS implemented new protocols, mandatory solo interviews with vulnerable adults, 30-day follow-ups for any abuse report, better training for caseworkers on recognizing manipulation by abusers. Detroit Police Department revised wellness check procedures. Officers now required to visually confirm well-being of subject, not just accept third-party statements. 4 other Michigan counties adopted similar guardian oversight programs. Amanda Foster used the case in training presentations. System failures aren't inevitable. They're preventable. One young man's survival created safer systems for thousands of others. 9 months later. September 15th. The clubhouse was decorated with streamers and a banner reading, "Congratulations, Ethan." A cake, chocolate with vanilla frosting, sat on table surrounded by cards and small gifts. 60 people crammed into the space, brothers and their families, Doc Harrison, Chains and Bite, Amanda Foster, who'd become a friend through legal process, Dr. Kim, Ethan's therapist, Judge Martinez, who'd approved the protection order. Ethan stood in the center wearing jeans that fit his 163-pound frame. Hell's Angels t-shirt Reaper had gotten him, his left wrist in light brace post-surgery, pins and plates successfully placed, mobility almost fully restored, hair trimmed neat, face filled out, eyes that still carried experiences, but held hope too. He looked 21. Finally, looked healthy. The celebration was for 2 things: Ethan's acceptance to Wayne State University's social work program, starting January, and the news that Diana Brennan's case had been reclassified as homicide after forensic examination proved brake system had been deliberately compromised. Richard faced additional charges: first-degree murder. If convicted, life without parole. Reaper brought out the cake. Everyone sang. Ethan blew out candles, simple moment that felt monumental because 9 months ago he'd been dying on frozen streets. Afterward, Priest pulled Ethan aside, handed him envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside, bank statement. Trust account in Ethan's name. Balance, $47,000 remaining from original inheritance, plus $38,000 raised by Hell's Angels chapters across Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. Brothers who'd heard his story and wanted to help. "That's yours," Priest said, "for education, for future, for whatever you want to build. And there's more. Wayne State's social work department is offering paid internship. You'd be helping other abuse survivors, using your experience to prevent others from suffering the same way." Ethan stared at numbers, at possibility, at future that had been stolen and was now being handed back. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll use it. Say you'll build something meaningful from everything difficult you survived. Say you'll help others the way we helped you." Ethan hugged Priest, this man who'd mobilized Brotherhood because he believed protecting the vulnerable was sacred. "Thank you," Ethan whispered, "for seeing me when I was invisible." "You were never invisible, Ethan. You were surrounded by people who chose not to look. But once someone really sees you, once someone decides you matter, you can't be ignored anymore." 3 months after that, December 21st, 1 year exactly since the night Ethan approached Reaper outside Rusty's Roadhouse. The coffee shop at Wayne State buzzed with students preparing for finals. Ethan sat at corner table, social work textbooks spread out, highlighter in hand. 170 pounds. Healthy weight. Wrist fully healed. On Dean's list, President of Students Against Abuse, organization he'd founded with Bite's help. Had already spoken at 5 Detroit high schools about recognizing abuse signs. Connected 2 students with resources in his first semester, young people who came to him privately, admitted what was happening at home, let him help them find safety. His stride was normal now. Confident. Present. But this story isn't really about statistics or programs or policy changes. It's about what happens when one person decides to act instead of watch. When someone chooses to approach the most intimidating-looking men in a parking lot because respectable-looking people already failed him. When courage looks like whispering 6 words, "Please, can you be brave for me?" and trusting strangers to honor that plea. And it's about what happens when the people society fears most turn out to be gentlest protectors. When leather jackets and motorcycle engines become symbols of safety instead of danger. When Brotherhood built on loyalty proves family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're dying. Here's what changed because Ethan found courage and Reaper chose compassion. Michigan passed Ethan's Law, requiring financial audits for trust accounts involving dependent adults with deceased parents. 4 other states studying similar legislation. Wayne County CPS implemented new protocols, mandatory solo interviews with vulnerable adults, 30-day follow-ups for abuse reports, enhanced training for caseworkers. Detroit police revised procedures. Wellness checks now require visual confirmation, not just third-party statements. Abuse awareness increased. Ethan's case used in training for social workers, police, healthcare providers across Michigan. But those numbers don't tell the real story. The real story is Ethan, 21 years old, sitting in classroom learning how to help others, carrying his mother's stethoscope to honor her memory, using knowledge that he survived. Proving trauma doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of someone else's salvation. If you've ever felt invisible, know this: you're not. Someone sees you. Maybe not yet. Maybe not today. But there are people in this world who will fight for you the moment you come into focus. Who will mobilize? Who will stand between you and harm? Who will give you their jacket when you're freezing and their protection when you're hunted? There are people suffering everywhere. Adults trapped in abusive situations, young people falling through cracks, individuals struggling while the world walks past, and most of the time, we don't see them because it's easier to look away. Because getting involved is messy and complicated, and might require sacrificing comfort for courage. But here's the truth. You don't need 217 motorcycles to change someone's story. You just need to pay attention. Listen when someone hesitates before saying they're fine. Notice when someone's losing weight they can't afford to lose. Question the stories that seem too perfect, the explanations that feel rehearsed. Care enough to intervene even if your voice shakes, even if you're wrong, even if it's awkward. Because the only thing worse than being wrong about abuse is being right and doing nothing. Richard Brennan is serving year 1 of 8 at Macomb Correctional, faces additional life sentence if murder conviction succeeds, will likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Ethan just finished his first year at Wayne State, 21 years old now, healthy, safe, thriving, still has difficult moments sometimes, still carries what happened. But he's healing, learning that surviving isn't the same as living, and he's finally doing both. Every December 21st, Ethan meets Reaper at Rusty's Roadhouse. They sit at the bar, order coffee. Remember the night everything changed because one young man refused to give up, and one stranger understood that protection is the highest form of love. The bar still smells like cigarette smoke and fried food, still gets crowded on Thursday nights. But now there's a plaque near the entrance. In honor of Ethan Cole Brennan, who taught us that heroes don't always look like what we expect, and in honor of the Hells Angels who proved that protectors still exist. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that protective people still exist. Comment below. Who was your protector when you needed one? Or what do you wish someone had done when you needed help? Because these stories matter. Not for algorithms or metrics, but because somewhere right now, there's another person wondering if anyone will see them, if anyone will fight for them, if they matter enough to be saved. They do. You do. We all do. And sometimes all it takes is one person choosing to say, "You're safe now," instead of walking away. To act instead of watch. To be the one who doesn't ignore the whispered plea. Subscribe. Share. Speak up. Be the person who doesn't walk past. Be someone's unexpected hero.